A portion of the proceeds from these credits have been invested towards funding clean cooking and solar home systems. The dividend of the emerging circularly exemplify the vision of the global conservation movement. I am pleased to share encouraging news of an exemplary Kenyan project, which is the first and largest in the world, focusing entirely on soil carbon removals through sustainable grazing management. It is on course towards its inspiring target of removing up to 50 million tons of carbon dioxide from the ecosystem over the next 30 years. All evidence and projections indicate that we are still only scratching the surface of Kenya's potential. Some estimates suggest that by 2030, Kenya will be generating over 30 million tons of carbon credits annually, thereby earning hundreds of millions of dollars as incomes and creating hundreds of thousands of green jobs for our young people. These resources, promised under this demonstrably feasible scenario, would accelerate a range of initiatives in areas such as landscape restoration, expansion of forest cover, tree growing, clean cooking, and agroforestry. Kenya is already bearing the brunt of climate change, whose adverse effects now impact every aspect of our economies and livelihoods. The climate crisis further complicates national roadmaps towards socio-economic transformation and impedes the achievement of sustainable development goals in our continent. As I speak to you, Kenya is in the throes of a harrowing food insecurity caused by 2 consecutive years of failed rain. Most of the country has been affected, and we have had to provide emergency relief to 4.3 million citizens to prevent suffering from hunger and starvation. Kenya, and by extension the Horn of Africa, is experiencing the worst drought in 40 years. Prevailing trends in the global warming signals that even more difficult times lie ahead on account of associated climate crisis. I stand here to make the strong case that despite all this, we in Africa, and more specifically in Kenya, are more than just climate victims. I wish to persuade you that our strengths by far surpasses our weaknesses, and that our potential to make substantial positive global contributions overwhelmingly exceed our need for assistance. Our people have the potential to play a unique, indispensable, and globally significant role in the prevention and mitigation of emissions, protection of crucial ecosystems, and the restoration of precious carbon sinks. The urgent actualization of this critical intervention offers humanity its best chance of prevailing in the existential contest with climate change-induced catastrophe. The good news is that the world has a golden opportunity to rapidly achieve these objectives by developing a robust, transparent, and sustainable mechanism through which a carbon credit market can yield attractive income and development opportunities for communities at the front line in the fight against climate change. We will align incentives among polluting producers and sequestration enterprises to achieve net zero industrialization and shared green prosperity. Kenya is already a leader in the generation of carbon credits in Africa, accounting for over 20% of Africa's volume over the past 5 years. Although we are just getting started and the scale remains modest, the beneficial impact of the nascent carbon credit regime holds tremendous promise. To actualize this vision and unlock potential, we require carbon markets that actually work for ordinary people in African communities. These markets will become reality under frameworks that prioritize the rapid and significant reduction of transaction costs. Currently, 80% of value of some green credits are captured by intermediaries, leaving only a fraction for the communities undertaking the actual hard work on the ground. It will also be fundamental for us, for such framework to effectively define methodologies and approaches to properly recognize and reward a broader range of measures through which Kenya, and indeed other African countries, contribute to fighting climate change. It is imperative to also develop modalities for the proper valuation of existing carbon sinks before they fall under imminent threats, such as deforestation and other forms of degradation. We recognize that our expectations are massive, but the opportunity before us is tremendous. We can, and indeed must, rise to the demands of the moment and seize it with both hands. Kenya therefore looks forward to working with initiatives such as the Africa Carbon Markets Initiative in substantially expanding carbon markets and carbon credit opportunities in our country and throughout the continent of Africa. I thank you.